said, the war definitely not going as Trump had hoped, but it seems to be going as many would have predicted. Indeed, Trump himself was met with a lot of warnings before he went down this road, and now, of course, it's unclear what direction he should take. We also see reports from the from the American media that even Israel is now growing concerned. They don't think that Iran is going to collapse. They don't think it's going to surrender. So what exactly, if time is on Iran's side, why go down this road? And the Wall Street Journal said something similar, that Trump's advisor would like to find a quick exit from this war. So what do you make of this? Is this are we reaching the end of the war, or will Iran not permit this?
Well, it's quite clear that the war is not going well for the United States, and that President Trump, I think, would like to put an end to it. And the problem that he faces is he can't find an off-ramp. I think nobody can tell a plausible story about how this war ends. If we had decisively defeated Iran the way we decisively defeated both Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan in World War II, then you can say the war is over with. We are the winner, and we're going to impose.
Let's get going. It's almost 1 o'clock. I'll try to start slowly. I don't particularly have brand new information, but we'll go through some things. On Friday, combination of two items. One, I had to get to the bank and wire some money for the gold opportunity many of us are in. That, as things are right now, that took a long time, and it was very difficult and complicated. And of course, once, I forget who it was, Courtney or somebody came on the phone, after about an hour and a half, she got it resolved very quickly. But it's so hard to get to that person who can get things done. So anyway, I didn't go live on Friday. And the other thing is I couldn't walk. I could barely walk. I had gout in my right ankle/foot. So it was very difficult. So anyway, I apologize I didn't come on. So I missed 1, 2, yeah, that's right. And we have today and tomorrow for March, as you can see. We only have, we've got to 9. Why don't you stay? And I would think that the stock, our stock, Railtown, will be under pressure because that's the end of the quarter, end of the month. And of course, the hedge funds where you give money, they have to book their they have to show their profits. Wednesday, the 1st is Passover begins at sundown. Easter is the 5th of Sunday. And that's the birthday of dear Peggy. I pray she has a good birthday. What a nice birthday. Then my dad's birthday is just after that. So April is going to be probably, as ever, spring, Easter, it's going to be a time of rising and new growth. And I think Railtown could be in line for Um, I don't know. I would say the third week of third week of April might be the start of something good. But you know what? It could take into May. And if I've lost credibility on my timing, I understand that. But you know, I can't explain. Telus just put out another, important public service email, PR, something about helping, which is a good thing, helping autistic children. But I don't know when they're going to get around to business. And I don't know that it's their fault. Who the heck knows? But we're getting very close. And we have approximately 18,600,000 shares of Railtown, 18,600,000 shares. That's to your credit, 18,600,000. Some people's numbers are not there. Probably some other people got sick of it. So who knows? It's pretty good effort though. UConn beat Duke, so I'm out, but congratulations to UConn. I'm not a basketball player, but I'm not sure why they were passing the ball. I think I would have just dribbled it, but whatever. Okay, that's that. We'll talk a little bit about the, well, let me just get it out while I'm thinking of it, otherwise I'll forget about it. With the gold company, which many of you have sent money in and were in, a large investor met with the guy in charge of the project last week in Las Vegas. I'm not going to say any names, but I don't know who the investor is. It has nothing to do with me. And I have no idea what the amount of money being proposed is. But I do know the guy in charge, he lives in Canada, in charge of the project. He wouldn't fly down for 100 grand or 50 grand. It's likely somebody willing to put in $1 million or more, maybe the whole thing. So we may run out of time to invest in that project. I'm not saying we will, but we may run out of time on that. Gold is at 4,500 roughly. The cost of producing, if the process works, but is it commercial? That's the whole thing about the pilot plant. And if you have, 30 million, that's, if it works, that's a low number, 30 million ounces of gold for 4,000 in cash revenue. 30 million ounces times 4,000 profit. That's 120 million in revenue. Put another way, it's $120 a share. Now, I'm not saying the shares are going to go that high because it'll be sold, there's a discount, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, I'm not saying it'll only sell for that either, because once the process is proven, if it is, to work commercially, it's proven, 2 different processes are proven over and over again to the satisfaction of the team. But the key thing is, can the resource be processed every single day in a production system to produce, to weigh gold? And look, it could be 3 times that number. It could be 5 times that number in terms of value. So it's very exciting. My guess is the deal's going to disappear relatively soon. Maybe, you never know. I'll try to stay on top of it. But, you know, for those of you who averaged, it's not down, but you increased your position, that should be, that should keep your ownership interest from being diluted by a new investor. Again, I don't know who it is, but it's a big deal. We collectively are approximately, my mini was 50,000. I was hoping to get 100 to 120,000 in. We're approximately at 75,000 total, which is pretty good. I think that's pretty good. And that's all, it's, whatever the exact total is, it's slightly below 75. It's all been forwarded to the company. So that's that. There's an oil project that I've really, regretfully, I thought I had an investor and the money's not arriving, and oil is skyrocketing. It's 100 million barrels of oil in place. So I'm going to try to work on it today and tomorrow, sort of Hail Mary, because I don't have my investor anymore. But that, if I can try to lock that down, that might be something we can work on when Railtown works. But let's move on from that. Railtown had I'll show it to you, but it's really not that significant. But they had a little bit of disclosure. I think it was Thursday night. And it's nothing really new to you, but I think what it shows is the company is really cleaning up all kinds of sort of housekeeping, I think, to get ready for their next phase. But they put out a 32-page, I didn't copy it, that's too many pages to go through, but on November 20, sorry, that's the acquisition date. Let me see when it was filed. There is no filing date. All right, let me go back. They filed it March 27th, end of business. And it's a Form 51-102F4 business acquisition report. And they filed it regarding AI partners. And I'll just go, I'll highlight, I'm not going to read it all, 32 pages. But on November 26th, 2025, the company completed the acquisition of 100% of the issued and outstanding common shares of AI Partnerships Corp. And it's all a big amalgamation, as we know, three-cornered hat. AIP was incorporated on April 30, 2020. So basically coming up on 6 years ago, with the goal of establishing a worldwide affiliate network of AI as a service-based companies that are focused on providing AI-based solutions in select industry sectors, including healthcare, manufacturing, supply chain, and fintech, and also other things. It's over 180 companies. The consideration was 49,476,251 shares. which I think is going to be proven to be a bargain, even though for all of us, it got drawn out. It was 50 cents consideration. I believe that 50 cents is Canadian, but it gets too confusing going back and forth. So just assume it's either Canadian or United States when you hear a price. It's a big difference. I mean, the Canadian dollar is 75 cents below the US dollar for the time being. Unfortunately, I think Benjamin Netanyahu has led the United States down the primrose path. And I think all of you, not only is there a giant inflection point going on in technology, there is an enormous inflection point going on in your lives. We are about to bear the consequences of losing a major war. It's going to change our standard of livings, if that's a plural. It's going to change the value of our currency, and forevermore, we're going to have to live which I think is good, it's healthy, but we're going to have to live in a world where the United States is just another very powerful country, but there will be China, Russia, Iran now because of the stupidity, India, maybe a Nigeria or a Namibia, Brazil perhaps, but it could be somebody else out of South America. Indonesia should have its shine. Singapore will do well. Japan shouldn't be forgotten. So your world just changed because of a monumentally stupid decision to follow Benjamin Netanyahu into hell. But you'll never be able to accuse the United States of any of the things they accuse anyone of criticizing Israel. I don't know. I think the United States has been a great country, wide open arms to allow all nations and all faiths to immigrate here. And, maybe that would have been the better answer instead of plopping 5 to 8 million ungrateful, disgruntled people into a desert in the Middle East. We could give them the desert in Arizona. They'd be safer and happier. Okay, they talk a little bit here about the consideration shares. I'm going to skip that. They talk a little bit about the valuation, not much. I'm going to skip that. They give the financial statements for the end of the year 25 and 24. And their year ends in April. So maybe that's why it's being filed now, because they're going to have, well, I don't know. It'll be consolidated with Railtown. Anyway, it's all expressed in Canadian dollars. They have an independent auditor. Small current assets, 26 grand. Total assets about 40 grand. Liabilities about 650,000. This was as of April 2025, so I'm sure it's probably changed a bit. The share capital, I don't know, There's a deficit. It's $3 to $4 million, I guess. There's consulting fees paid to somebody, not to me. They had a loss per share of 3 cents. No, sorry. That looks like a gain. No, they wrote down loss. 3 cents a share loss. The number of shares outstanding at AIP was about just under 17 million shares. Doesn't matter anymore. They lost about $500,000 the last 2 years. I guess that'll be a similar number. They'll show up this year. They lost cash, so it was, they were burning money. Okay, they repeat that the AIP Partnerships Corp was incorporated April 30, 2020 under the Canadian Business Corporations Act to create an affiliate network of companies providing AI-based solutions on a software as a service basis, with the longer term plan of acquiring a select number of affiliates that meet the requirements of the company. Talk about going concern. I'm just going to skip. It's a lot of boilerplate. They did have some convertible debt. During 2025, well, 2024 into 2025, they issued $35,000 worth of convertible debt. Oh my gosh. There's compounded rate of 12%, convertible into common shares at the lower of $1.72 per share, or 80% of the equity securities sold by the company in a qualified financing. You know, they got to start putting CEOs to jail for signing these kind of things. The SEC will never go after the criminals, but they'll go after CEOs. You cannot sign these toxic crap. But anyway, it doesn't matter anymore. The company's been agglomerated into Railtown, and these things have no ongoing threat, at least in my opinion. They issued stock in February of 24 at 40 cents a share for $200,000. And the buyout, I think, was at 50 cents a share. So that's not such a bad deal that Corey struck. They paid consulting fees to a former director of almost $40,000. They owe money to former directors, almost $200,000. So they worked out that debt, I think, at 40 cents a share. I don't want to read, it's just too boring to read the whole formula. But that it's not an ongoing concern. They give the financial statements. I really don't think it's worth going into them into detail. I'm on page 26. I'll see if there's anything important to me. The bloody convertible notes. All right. That's it. So what do I think that is? I think that is, it might be required because their year is coming up and they want to consolidate everything in the earnings. But I also think there's a little bit of just cleaning everything up, which, if you want to be optimistic, it's because the company's going to get bought out. I don't think that's happening in the near term. It might be to create joint venture situations. That might be happening. And it might just be a prelude to a lot of, well, there's so much speculation in what I'm saying, we can't count on it. What we do know is the Telus data center is going to ramp at some point, and Railtown's going to be on top of it. That's all we really know. But if that's successful and that's a good proof of concept, I think you're going to see a lot of other contracts or arrangements made, and maybe all of this is preparatory to that. All right. That's that. That's that. That's that. At 2 o'clock or so, I might take a quick break to handle something. Take me about 5 minutes. I might not go all the way to 4 o'clock either, because I got stuff to do that's just so annoying. I wrote a Substack on how difficult it is to transfer shares. And it still is. I was on the phone for 4 hours this morning. It's just a nightmare. Okay, so Railtown is down almost a penny at 30 cents. Again, my opinion is that's because this is the last 2 days of the quarter, but we'll find out. GTII is down a penny. Why is that on my screen? Finger is down 7 cents at 95 cents. MTEN is down 2 cents at 125. Next strip is up 21 cents at 286. Did Finger do with financing? No, but it's very difficult. Very difficult. Let me see. We should talk about Railtown, of course, but I really want to emphasize to all of you that, and I'm not trying to criticize anybody, because all we can be is witnesses, but the actions the United States took on behalf of Israel, and there's arguments out there that this is against the British Empire, and Trump plays 5D chess. I think all of us are living in a period of complacency, a period of, oh, things have always worked out before. There's going to be very real consequences to this idiocy. Clearly, to me, the United States is going to be evicted from the Middle East in many of its bases, unless Saudi Arabia or maybe Qatar, UAE decide we have to be there and somehow we can stop the missiles. But I don't see it. I think we're going to be permanently out of the Middle East. I think it's the end of Israel as a functioning country. because I don't know what's wrong with the mind of Netanyahu, but it's very likely that, I hope not, but if they hit the nuclear power plant in Israel, nobody's going to be able to live there. The desalinization, who's going to be able to live there? But most importantly, I think the people that are middle class and wealthy, particularly if there's a woman in the family, they're going to get the heck out of there. It's just not safe. Unfortunately, I think Dubai, the experiment of Dubai, and maybe even Abu Dhabi is over with, which is a shame. I spent a lot of time there. It's really lovely experiences for a lot of years. Those are things that maybe will evolve over a longer period of time. But in the near term, there's not enough fertilizer for the world. One of the reasons the world has been able to sustain such a high population is oil and gas. And those overly educated, primarily women that come out of the Northeast universities with cockamamie ideas. There's some simp men that go along with them because they want to get laid. But no one comes to the truth. The truth is oil and gas is the key to the huge population burden on the planet. Now, there's terrible conspiracy theories that a guy like Bill Gates invested in this tick, so that if you're bitten by this tick, you'll die if you eat red meat. And a dear friend of mine got that. So there are diabolical ideas about maybe about reducing our population so the planet survives. I don't know. I don't want to speculate on all that because it really sounds loony tunical. But on energy, I have a little bit of understanding. And fertilizer is what allows us to eat. And I think it's going to hit Europe, might hit parts of Africa. I'm almost certain it's going to hit the Middle East. And it will probably have an effect even in Russia, because the Ukraine is the breadbasket of whatever you want to call it, Europe, Asia. It's pretty, but it's been destroyed for now anyway, and it's probably got a lot of radioactivity in it. So I don't know what's going on. Is it evil fighting good? Is it mankind just losing their brains? Is it men going insane? Is it just because it's 100 years since the First World War? I don't know. But I think you need to bear in mind roughly two numbers. Something like a third of the world's natural gas comes out of the Gulf. Might be more. And I don't know what percentage of the world's fertilizer comes out of the Gulf, but it's all because of natural gas. So I think you can extrapolate that it's probably at least a third, but who knows? It might be 25%, but it's a big deal. And it goes to Europe. All those energy plants are being bombed. I don't know how they're going to get rebuilt. Our bases are being bombed. I don't know how we're going to be able to rebuild them. But if Trump actually and I voted for Trump 3 times, so I don't want to criticize him. But if he bombs Iran's uh, energy plants and its water plants, you're going to have humanity. You're going to have a lot of death. Water doesn't. Iran doesn't have enough water, and one analyst believes Iran already has a nuclear weapon. I don't think it matters. I think Iran has so many missiles they can take out the Middle East. Well, we can sit over here, watch our basketball, get ready for baseball, get upset that Chick Sweeney has big boobs, uh, be fascinated by the last of the Kardashian sisters, get angry at King's Day, uh, be proud of Obama because he is, after all, half black. Um, we can do all of that, but we're ignoring what's coming down the road. Energy prices are going to soar, and they're never going back. We need to reshore and have, it'll be good for jobs in the future, but the just-in-time delivery of crap around the world, it's over with. Silver is going to soar. Silver is on its way much, much higher. Why? I think I'm trying to remember the number, but I think we've launched something like 600 or 700 missiles ourselves. Each one of those bigger missiles has 500 ounces of silver in it. You're going to see the arms dealers in the United States get rich off of this, and maybe in Europe too. And what's it all for? It's insanity. But I'm sorry that I let some of my opinions through, but let's not focus on who's right or wrong. I pray Trump can just say, hey, I won, and pull out and say, you know what, Israel, you're on your own. We did our best. And any of Israeli citizens, you're welcome. Open immigration. You can come live in New York, come live in Florida, live in California, live in Arizona, live wherever you want. The entire country is welcome to move to the United States, but we can't continue bombing every country you can't get along with. We just can't do it anymore. We tried it. We really stepped in it, and we've got to come back and rebuild North America. But I tell you, $4 gasoline, I think you're going to, every time you pay $10 or $20 or $30 of gasoline, you can remember that the United States of America stood by Israel. And that we've got that going for us. But it's going to change your lives. And so anyway, what does that mean practically? To me, it means that our best way collectively of increasing our equity that we have to then maybe apply to income in oil and gas, maybe to apply to physical gold and silver, maybe to apply to gold and silver projects, oil and gas projects, or anything you know how to do. You know, the United States will remain a very powerful economy, but one of the ways to have equity, to have some say-so about our future, I think, is Railtown. I can't think of another investment which can give you 10 to 20x in the next 45 to 90 days. And that's just starting. And I think the transformation to AI is going to continue for, I'll pick three reasons. One is it's happening. People aren't going to go back. Data, it's just accelerating. Even in a period of war, unless it's nuclear war, then it's over anyway. I think it's going to continue to grow, and even in a different economic paradigm, this transformation is going to continue apace. Secondly, I think this war and the disastrous consequences of it are likely to lead to a global calamity, leading to depression maybe. So it's interesting. You'll have higher energy, but you might have low inflation. We've talked about private credit. Private credit, I've mentioned it to you with oil in terms of peak oil, but Benjamin and Donald and Heg, the very what's his name out of South Carolina, the senator. Everybody's John McCain. We've decided to bomb Iran. For what reason? But it's also what General Wesley Clark warned. There were 7 countries. The New American Century, Victoria Nuland, Robert Kagan. If you notice one thing about who's running our country, you're not wrong. But there were 7 countries we were going to have the New American Century. The only country we hadn't destroyed and bombed was Iraq. Now we have. And now Trump's just like Bush. Trump's just like Obama. Trump's no different. He's John McCain. And it's a shame. I think Trump would have gone down in history if he had told Benjamin Netanyahu, hey, we'll gladly go through those 4 suitcases of dry cleaning you brought to the White House. We'll clean it all. And in fact, we'll deliver it by limousine to your jet, but just fly home. We're not going to war on your behalf. And if he told Miriam Adelson, you know what? I'm sure that you would have become worth $35 billion on your own. You're so talented. Why don't you take your $35 billion over to Israel, and why don't you just go live there? But he didn't. So for 5 million people, we've sent the world into a nightmare. And right now we're just continuing as if Trump just attacked Venezuela or just took over Cuba. But let me ask you something. Why would Iran stop? Why? Trump sends 2 people, Witkoff and Kushner, to negotiate. The first time they went to negotiate, during negotiations, Trump bombed the hell out of Iran. Second time, same thing. This time, why would Iran negotiate? Iran agreed to a ceasefire, but that just gave time for Benjamin Netanyahu to be more of an asshole and then start attacking again. Why would Iran agree to anything with us? Maybe Putin can pull it off. But anyway, regardless, I apologize for my points of view slipping through. I hope Trump has an off-ramp. I hope he has a Kennedy moment. It comes on TV and says, hey, that Bay of Pigs fiasco is all on me. Buck stops with me. I hope Trump says that. And then we can recover maybe. But I think Trump's going to have to divorce the United States from Israel. Any peace in the Middle East is going to be a diminished role for Israel. And it's probably going to mean taking away their nuclear arms and breaking down the walls that Israel's built up and giving back the land that Israel's taken, stolen from Palestinians, the Lebanese, Syria, the West Bank, all of it. Or we'll just be at war. And just remember for your children that we took the side of a murderous colonial power, which is a religious supremacy. It's even almost a white supremacy colonial power, although there's a slight sliver of Ethiopians. Just we took that side. Anyway, let me get off of the politics of it. Hopefully there's an off ramp. If the economy goes into a depression, maybe that saves oil prices. But the human suffering is going to be amazing. So I want to redouble our efforts to hang on to our position of Railtown. All right, so that was the second reason. The third reason I think AI is going to do just fine is as this collapse comes, which I think will happen, I still think the market's going to have a heroic upside rally first. But I think as government starts spending money, priming the pump, in the United States, it'll probably go to mining and oil and gas. It might go to rebuilding our bridges, maybe building our cities. It might, if we wake up, it might go to all that. But I think a lot of it's going to go to AI and building out our electric grid and building out our power plants that help AI. So that's why I think Railtown is one area where we can protect ourselves against the storm that's coming. And it's coming. All right, let me get off of that because I'm probably being too negative. Private credit. Here's an article. Stock market sliding. This is in the Daily Hate today. Stock market sliding and oil prices surging. Shadow banking. Private credit grew to $3 trillion last year, according to Morgan Stanley. So they're calling from opening up retirement accounts to private credit. And this call comes as private credit boom has showing signs of strain. Some of Wall Street's biggest firms, Apollo, BlackRock, and Ares, have been flooded with requests from investors trying to pull their money out. But many times the funds say you can't. That brings panic. Many of the loans are underpinning private credit have been tied to the AI data center frenzy. So I just got a phone call. I'm gonna, after we're done, I'll call him back. I think it's an update on the financing at that gold company. Um, some of you probably have been lulled into thinking that Wall Street managers are smart and that you can get 10, 15, 20% a year, maybe more, by trusting your money to Wall Street. But that's just been a trend. That's just been a fad. That's the wrong word. But I think it's going to be disrupted. And there's no reason that just because Wall Street has had high rates of return since 2008, that it's going to continue. I'd like to see us all get into income from hard assets. All right, I'm gonna answer some questions here, and then maybe talk about other things. Chess Night, number one. Yes, you are number one, and your dog is number one. Babcock family, number two. Yes, sir. DMAC, greetings, William. All right, Joe Marty added 15,000. All right. That's a good deal. Joe Marty, waiting on more money to clear tomorrow and Thursday. Brilliant, brilliant. Yeah, I've been trying to ramp it up my side. It's not going to happen. T. Alex, hi everyone. Hi T. Alex. Pat M. Hey everyone. Hey Pat. Silver Sky Rockets at night. Hello William. And Skyrocket says hi to everyone. Akira Nova says hello everyone. Hello William. And Ricky's the best. Ricky added 140. I think I might already have that, but I'll write it down again. That's a great position, Ricky. It's a great position. Ricky says, hi, William, and everyone. Pat M says, your article was really good. Well, thank you. I'm going to try to put more in there. So, I thought what I would do, there's a guy that I used to follow a lot, but he has changed his, I think he might have sold his letter to somebody else. That doesn't interest me. He does, though. I think he has some articles. He's usually upbeat. He talks about the negatives, what he sees. He's a PhD, Dr. Stephen Lieb. But he also tends to try to be upbeat, which is something I forget to do sometimes. Here's an article he has. Who is winning the AI race? Written February 20th. AI is accelerating. This is where you can find it. Building wealth in a changing world. Stephen Lieb, PhD. AI is accelerating efforts toward human longevity by creating digital twins. Yeah. It's a long article, but here's a quote he puts in. NVIDIA's CEO Jensen Huang left no doubt about what he sees lying ahead. Quote, China is going to win the AI race, not might win, will win, unquote. Huang gets a lot of credence not only because of NVIDIA's material success, but also because he had the insight to recognize that chips could be that they used for games could be foundational in data centers, these giant computers. He says the United States is still ahead in chip design. This is Dr. Lee. It's true that the United States has access to much smaller chips than do the Chinese. The main reasons is that the Dutch company ASML has a monopoly in the world's most critical semiconductor market, extreme ultraviolet photolithography, EUV machines. EUV machines create the patterns on silicon wafers. The finer the patterns, the smaller the chips, and the smaller the chips, the greater number of chips that can fit on a wafer, leading to more efficient and faster performance. Notably, China is following multiple paths toward gaining supremacy in the hardware underlying AI. They're creating superclusters, which are happening in Canada. That's the connectivity among individual chips. Thanks to NVIDIA, the United States has led when it comes to single chip making. China's superclusters require more energy and space than NVIDIA's clusters, but China is not short on either, possessing abundant cheap energy sources like wind and solar. They're trying to beat the Netherlands company, ASML, and using analog chips. I don't want to read all that. So anyway, that's one article he has there. I'd like to see, the reason I looked him up is he used to do he had an index. I forget what he called it, the lead index, such that if oil prices went over $100, you could assume that stock prices are going down. And I wanted to find out, and I haven't been able to find it, what his new number is, because I think 100 has to be adjusted upward. And what I notice is a lot of the analysts that used to be peak oil guys like myself, they've all turned very neutral. So maybe they've learned something, and I guess, I've got to study where they are. There's a guy named Art Berman who I attended many of his talks, and he was really almost alarmist, but he's totally gone to the neutral side. And Well, see, all right, that article was a year old. I don't think that helps us. I don't think that helps us at all. America faces turbulent times. That's last year. All right, let me just see his most recent. The Iran miscalculation. That follows a previous post, Iran, an utterly stupid war. I agree with him on that. So Dr. Stephen Lieb and Megan Davis write an article March 13th, 2026, the Iran miscalculation. The war doesn't seem to be going well. Or to be more direct, the war can be termed a catastrophic failure. When the United States and Israel launched a coordinated attack on Iran, by the way, Dr. Lieb is Jewish, just, I don't know about Megan Davis, but just so you know where he's coming from. And he's very proud of the heritage of the Jewish culture in the United States, fairness, seeking truth, hard work, which I agree with. A couple other things he listed. Questioning, I think, was one of it. It's important to simply analyze the facts, which is fair enough. This is becoming increasingly difficult in a world with so much available information and the inability to distinguish, which I agree with that as well. So here are 3 points. Iran has 3 overwhelming advantages. 1, aided by China and Russia, Iran has a massive advantage over both the United States and Israel in terms of critical military technologies. I agree. So do the Soviets. Well, I guess that's Russia. To give just one example, Iran has hypersonic missiles that can reach speeds of Mach 14. They're precise, and they're designed to penetrate advanced missile defenses. Iran has held most of its advanced missiles in reserve. Number 2, Iran's geographical and geopolitical location. The country's control of the Strait of Hormuz gives it control over 20% of the worldwide oil trade. Moreover, Iran has land borders with 15 countries, making it critical to the land bridges which interconnect Asia, Europe, and the Middle East. That's always been true, thousands of years. This fortunate geography, combined with massive oil reserves, I'm not so sure, makes Iran a critical cog in the world oil trade. I guess they're massive compared to what anybody else has. I just don't know that they're as massive as what's reported. Iran provides an essential geopolitical link between the world's 2 largest and most important countries, China and Russia. In seeking to destroy Iran, the United States and Israel evidently failed to realize that Iran would get as much help as Iran needed from Russia and China. But by fighting the combined might of the entire global South, including Russia, this war has turned into a total fiasco that will likely put the final nail in the coffin of Americans' global hegemony. Now, what that means to you is seigniorage of the US dollar is over. What it means to you if you think of the United States as one human being, not as a country, we'll still be powerful. But if you think of us as one human being, when we go to work, we can buy oil. We produce some, but I think it's exaggerated that we're independent. We produce 20 million barrels a day, they say, but we consume 20 to 25 million, or we used to. And we're going to consume a lot more if we reshore our jobs and get our economy going again. But anyway, if you think of us as one person, because of the dollar's role in the world, if we run short of money at the end of the month, we can just pull out our checkbook, write a check. We never have to balance our checkbook. We never have to pay it back. Everybody in the world will take our check. So when we work, whatever work we do translates into dollars, which translates into oil at the price of dollars. Now, if you imagine somebody working in Islamabad or in Hyderabad or in New Delhi, they work and they earn money for their work as a representation for their efforts. But when they go buy gasoline, they've got to convert their, whatever the heck it is, rupee or whatever's in Pakistan, they got to convert it into dollars first to buy oil. That's where we have an advantage. We don't have to do, but that'll stop. That'll stop because of this foray that we did on behalf of Israel. Okay, number 3, the third advantage is Iran certainly is guilty of crimes against its own people. Maybe. I don't know. It looks like it, but I don't know what to trust. It looks like that's true, but when you compare it to other countries like the aforementioned, I wonder. And he focuses on women. I think we got to get over that, by the way. We're in the West, we view the future as female. Women at any age can step into any job and do it better than any man. That's how we see it. We think women are empowered by having 100 sexual partners or more. It's empowering. You know, that's a Western point of view. I'm not going to argue whether it's right or wrong. But other countries may not see it that way. And so I would say Shia Muslim country doesn't see it that way. So I think we have to get over that. But women won't agree with me on that. We have to make sure that all around the world, women can blow their youth on sexual partners and abortions and meaningless jobs, so they can be unhappy, men can be unhappy, and it's all going to be better. Iran has many flaws, but unlike Sunni Muslims who seem to be shifting ever closer to strict fundamentalism, modern Shia Muslims generally have a willingness to view the world philosophically and to be open to deviating from or reinterpreting religious dictums. They're all very well educated. It is a culture with a spiritual foundation which has persisted more than 5 millennia. It is worth noting that Iranian women are historically highly well educated. So everything about the article has to go back to women. 89% of adults are literate versus 79% in the United States. 89% of adults in Iran are literate, 79% in the United States. 60% of college students in Iran are women. Long-lived cultures like Iran's, China and Russia also apply, have a natural cohesion which brings the population together in times of crisis. Offensively, the country combines an arsenal of nearly impossible to hit hypersonic missiles with multitudes of offensive and defensive drones. Rough estimates are that about 75% of Iran's drones can be destroyed by the enemy, which means 25% can get through and fulfill the mission. Iran had stockpiled 100,000 or more drones and can produce 5,000 drones a month, an overwhelming number for completing missions. The drones have been successful in destroying billions of dollars worth of radar equipment, leaving the United States blind in many of its offensive and defensive sorties. These early efforts at blinding the United States and Israel could have devastating implications if the war continues. Iran is playing the long game. The United States is short-sighted. Though war-related images in Israel have been severely censored by the Israeli government, there are reasons to believe that damage in Israel has been extensive. These reasons include visual assessments from the few images. Remember, at least one of these authors, I believe both are Jewish, so please, I think this is a sign of the questioning, of the fairness, of the seeking of truth, the striving, the hard work, the high education that Dr. Stephen Lee describes when he talks about his own culture, which I admire, by the way. Journalist Pepe Escobar, who's great, has characterized Putin's reply to Trump asking for a credible plan for U.S. withdrawal as a precondition for Putin getting involved. We strongly suspect that any plan will have to include, listen to this, a pathway for nearly complete withdrawal of the United States from the Middle East. So what you've done, we've done, all of us as a country, following Netanyahu off a cliff, is we're going to have to withdraw from the Middle East. That's the end of oil being priced in dollars. As we wrote in last week's blog, the key is to figure out what happens to Netanyahu. We would never hope for any ultimate harm to come to any human being. The war seems unlikely to end in a way that would suit Israel. If Netanyahu is out of the picture, the world would likely have a better basis for coalescing, though there still would be a lot of work ahead. We hope Netanyahu will step down as prime minister and turn the reins over to someone more spiritually minded and more in sync with all that Israel originally stood for: homeland, the Jewish people, and peace and harmony within the small nation of Israel. It is worth remembering that when the Jewish people found their way into Palestine in the late 1940s and were offered it as their homeland, the Jews offered to share it with the Palestinians, and the Palestinians said no. Lately, that situation has been reversed. But while much of the fighting between the Palestinians and the Jews over their homelands is rooted in religions, they all share the same ancestry. From a purely scientific perspective, genetic studies have shown that Palestinians and Jews alike have ancestral ties to the ancient populations of the region, specifically Levantine and Canaanite, making them in some respects related genetically. And in terms of their religious texts, both are descendants of the same man, Abraham. One undeniable biblical interpretation is that we are all one. We are all part of the same messy and twisted family tree. All this fighting and war is in the name of religion, makes no sense. Beyond the ties between Jews and Palestinians, there are similar relationships with all people of the Muslim faith. The only difference is that in Islamic tradition, Ishmael, the son of Abraham and Hagar, is viewed as the ancestor of the Arab people and a progenitor of faith, whereas Isaac, the son of Abraham and Sarah, is viewed as the ancestor of the Israelites. According to the Holy Book of Islam, the Quran, quote, "He has set down upon you, O Muhammad, peace be upon him, the book in truth, confirming what it was before, and he revealed the Torah and the gospel," unquote. Similarly, the Christian faith recognizes the Torah. That's true, totally. The Holy Book of the Israelites as a precursor of the New Testament of Jesus. The spiritual lineage of Christianity also descends from Abraham. The only reason this is relevant is that Zionist Christians, many of them residing in the United States, seem to somehow view the survival of Israel and the so-called building of the third temple as essential for the arrival of the Messiah, who will lead the believers into paradise. Maybe, maybe not. We obviously have no idea. Well, that's the most honest thing we can say. None of us know. We do know that the heartbeat of a soldier in an American uniform and the heartbeat of a soldier in an Israeli uniform and the heartbeat of a soldier in an Iranian uniform all beat the same way. We are all human beings. We all share the same planet and are all alike in the most fundamental ways. That should be all that matters. I happen to agree with him 100%. Let me just go through quickly his previous article, and then I'll go to David Morgan. Dr. Stephen Lee wrote an article March 5th, 2026. I won't read it all, but I'm going to hit the parts that struck me when I read the article. When I woke up this past Saturday morning to learn that we had launched an attack against Iran, I was shocked and horrified. I actually had thought we would never do anything so stupid. I was wrong. As the days go by, the news makes it clearer that the decision to strike was a colossal mistake. The idea that assassinating a supreme leader, the country would fall in our lap. This profoundly stupid act and the ensuing war are nearly certain to lead to immeasurably negative consequences for the United States and our allies. And the reason, I know you're going to get upset, some of you, at my points of view. I don't mean it that way. I can't help saying what I think. But what I want to get through to you is you cannot be complacent. The dollar is going to collapse. The cost of food is going to go up. The cost, your lifestyle, your ability to fly anywhere in the world for a week's worth of pay, that's over with. Life has irreversibly changed because we listened to the lying criminal Netanyahu. So he talks about the assassination of Ayatollah Khomeini, 300 million Shia Muslims. He was 86 years old. He was 86 years old. He was dying of cancer. So, quote from Iran TV, Khomeini, quote, achieved his long cherished wish of martyrdom in the holy month of Ramadan, unquote. The assassination backfired. It did not fracture the populace. Tulsi Gabbard, the current head of national intelligence in the United States herself, testified under oath before Congress in March of 25 that Iran had not authorized or resumed the nuclear weapons program that they suspended in 2003. Although she did note that the stockpile of enriched uranium was unprecedented. Here's what I always think. Having enriched uranium does not mean that you are making a nuclear bomb. It means that you could, but it also could be that you are exploring options for alternative energy. That's a possibility. They have had enriched uranium for 30 years and still do not have a nuclear bomb. The very way we evidently decided to go to war has left the United States looking weak and stupid. According to both Secretary of State Marco Rubio and House Speaker Mike Johnson, the United States struck to protect Israel. Realize that a day before the war started, a spokesman for Oman, which had been acting as a neutral mediator in talks to come to a diplomatic solution, announced that significant progress had been made. In other words, there was a strong suggestion that a deal between US and Iran might be imminent. Israel, presumably unhappy with the prospect of a new nuclear deal, told the United States that Israel was planning to strike as soon as Saturday. Rubio and Johnson said that as a result, the United States felt it had no choice but to strike in order to back up Israel. That the United States appears to have conceded its agency to Israel has weakened respect for the United States, not only in the Middle East, but throughout the world. The war has reached a significant part of the Middle East and much damage has already been done. Media sources I regard as reliable and personal sources say that America has been put on its back foot, not only in the failure of the decapitation strike to quickly end the war, but also by the ferocious response of Iran. U.S. air bases throughout the Gulf states have been attacked. Civilian targets, luxury hotels that cater to the rich and famous have been struck, including in Dubai, which is a worldwide financial center and the most important Middle East destination for financial firms. Qatar, one of the world's largest exporters of LNG, liquefied natural gas, has been hard hit. Shiite communities in Pakistan and India have engaged in violent protests, which include attacks on the United States consulates. Iran shows no sign of letting up. The United States is constrained by limited supplies of weapons and ammunition. We talked about Iran's geography. Member of the BRICS. Russia will benefit from a long war as long as it doesn't get out of control. Though Taiwan is becoming close to a sitting duck, my guess is that China will not attack, but rather will take advantage of a weakened United States to achieve China's goal of making Taiwan an administrative province of China. That's where our AI chips come from, right there. A U.S. defeat in Iran would have widespread implications for our global standing. It would likely shatter any hopes of a continued American hegemony, not only in the Middle East, but in the rest of the world. Our military capacity would be called into question severely. So would our ability to impose economic sanctions. This would do great damage to an already faltering dollar. If the dollar ceases to be the primary medium for world trade, the U.S. could become a country bereft of critical commodities. As we currently are less than 20% self-sufficient. Why would any provider of critical commodities want to exchange those commodities for paper or IOUs from a country that has no visible way of making payment? My view, this is Dr. Stephen Lee, my view is the war punctuates a process that began with the Ukrainian war, and that the outcome will include the loss of American standing in the world. The biggest question is, to what extent will the United States economy remain viable? And in case you're not already depressed, will we launch a nuclear weapon if we feel weak? Let's hope not. The role of Israel, according to Dr. Stephen Lee, trying to peer in the future. Much will depend on what happens in Israel. An Israel in which Netanyahu continues to call the shots would be a terrible thing for the world. An Israel free of Netanyahu could point to a more welcome world characterized by cooperation, which benefits everyone. In 23, when Hamas attacked Israel, Netanyahu was scheduled to visit Xi Jinping in China. There are natural ties between the Chinese and the Jews. The Chinese respect Jewish culture. And as I've often written before, whether you think about China's government, China believes in a cooperative world and that a better world for its citizens goes hands in hand with a better world for all. China no doubt appreciates the success that the Jewish people have had in intellectual endeavors. And China desires to open the door for Israel to join BRICS. Nor would it be surprising if Russia were willing to welcome Israel into BRICS. Russia is more hospitable to Jews than you think. In 2010, a convocation of Jewish rabbis singled out Russia as the best place for Jews to live within the European region. Putin himself makes yearly donations to a Holocaust museum in Russia. It is known and has been confirmed by Israelis that Putin personally paid for an apartment for a Russian emigre to Israel, a Jewish woman who helped raise Putin while both his parents worked. I write this as someone who grew up with a mostly Jewish identity and as a fervent supporter of Jewish culture. The Jewish passion for learning, questioning, and fairness took hold of me at a young age. In the wake of recent events, I returned to a piece published in the LA Times in 1969. The author was Eric Hoffer, a self-taught philosopher and a longshoreman. Hoffer's books preached the need for human creativity and individuality. He was deeply spiritual, as was Eisenhower. Quote, God has implanted in us the seeds of all greatness, and it behooves us to see to it germinate, grow, and come to flower. We must see learning and growing as part of a sort of worship. For God has implanted capacities and talents in us, and it is our sacred duty to finish God's work. Jews' spirituality, this is Dr. Leib, is defined in terms of millennia. Their reverence for learning is evidenced by their winning Nobel Prizes at a rate 100 times higher than would be expected by their percentage of the world's population. And then Hoffner wrote about the Holocaust. I'm not diminishing it, but I don't want to read it all because I want to finish. Israel's path from the haven of an oppressed minority to a country that today many accuse of genocide against their neighbors is, as Hoffer eerily foretold, closely linked to America's path from a brilliant beacon of freedmen to an ask no questions oppressor. In both cases, the path is closely linked to the mutation of spirituality into a materiality. Israel's trajectory mirrors our own in the United States. Ours started with a turn away from gold as a monetary center to a sole reliance on fiat currency. Israel's star began to dim in the early 70s when it started to accept ever greater help from the United States in financing its own defenses. I believe that our latest attack on Iran can be bookended with the Ukraine war 4 years ago. I felt as if a higher power was telling the West, if not all of humanity, that we must choose between cooperation and extinction. The West had chosen to support Banderites, the incontrovertible direct political descendants of Nazis, who, as acknowledged by Ukraine's first president, had been complicit with the Germans in conducting the Holocaust. Rather than supporting a country, Russia, which had sacrificed 20 million citizens manning the Eastern Front in the Allies' victory over the Nazis. Biden and his ardent backer Cheney and the team of rogues, including Sullivan and Blinken, will go down among the most villainous Americans in the still relatively short history of the Republic. The screams of death from innocent Jews, Poles, and others rang hollow in their ears. Wow, that's pretty powerful. I didn't see that before. Iran has a small Jewish population, and according to many sources, there is no discrimination against them. Barbara Demick, author of the book Life of Jews Living in Iran, writes, quote, Jews in the Islamic Republic of Iran are formally to be treated equally and free to practice their religion. There is even a seat in the Iranian parliament reserved for representatives of the Iranian Jews. I think under the right circumstances, Israel could be viewed as a brilliant cherry atop a group of sovereign countries who provide the bulk of the world's goods and services. But there is one deeply ironic impediment. Israel's current leader, Benjamin Netanyahu. No civilization in world history has been free from the occasional rotten apple. The Jewish culture, in common with civilizations of China and Russia, has been around for millennia. It should be able to withstand Netanyahu. But he is the key to how this unfolds. Israel probably would not be doing what it is doing today without Netanyahu. Israel could be the bridge to peace, but it will take another person running the country. And I can only hope that, as in Hoffner's words, quote, as it goes with Israel, so will it go with all of us. Should Israel perish, the Holocaust will be upon us all, unquote. And I hope his words do not prove prophetic. Anyway, that's Dr. Stephen Lieb, and his website is called Turbulent Times Investor. All right, let me, I'm going to read a couple these last three posts, and then I got to put you on hold for just a second. So talk amongst yourselves, but I've got to do something quickly. I've got to make 2 phone calls. Uncle Steve, I just got back from a cruise with family, disconnected from the world. Sold a paper silver today and added Railtown. Wow, you're amazing. 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 At 30, you're going to single-handedly be the rich ski. MC88. Wow. MC88. Amazing. Added 78. I wish I could remember who MC88 is. I'll probably be able to find who you are. MC88. MC88. I can't think of it. 178,000. That's amazing. Bravo. Congratulations. A equal a lil. All right. So if you give me just a second, what I might do is just put this up in case anyone thinks of it. And Okay. I am done with that. I'll just leave that up for a second. And then I'm going to go to the quotes. Where is it? Okay. All right. Um, uh, let me see if I can get a couple of ideas on Railtown, which came from Ward, which are very interesting. But let's get a quote. Um, Railtown's under 30 cents. It's 29 cents, 29.15. Again, I emphasize to all of you that tomorrow is the end of the quarter. So these campaigns to suppress prices and churn it out and make, by selling stock that doesn't exist, they may or may not have open positions. But if they can suppress the price and close the books on March 31st, they look like they're winners. And that's what I think's going on. Of course, the market, there's a lot of fear about, let me see what the Dow's up a little bit, NASDAQ's down 141. Finger is under $1 at 96 cents, which is, let me see what the volume is. I don't know, guys, on Finger. I think they have to raise some money. That looks terrible. I don't know any other word for it. It did hit the bottom of the page. So I guess that's as low as it can go. Let me go to the 5-year chart. Yeah. I'm afraid it's going to round trip to where it all started. There's nothing stopping that. Anyway, let's not focus on that. Iran puts U.S. students in crosshairs with campus threat. Oh, Lord. Okay. Unknown, 3 for $1 sale, exactly. Pete added 8 more shares. I love it. I love it. Added 8 more shares. Ricky, William, you should join Twits. We have a good community on RT. I don't know what StockTwits. I could look it up. Unknown Stockman. I wish I could send you some shares. I want you to be rich. I want everybody to be rich. I want everybody to be rich. Let's see if I can show you a few things here quickly. I didn't read it all, but it's a very interesting concept that Ward came up with. So it's his credit. I first want to show you a chart on data centers that I found or asked for. And these are 49 projects around the world, $1 trillion, 986 billion in investment, 16 countries, and you see the United States is the main player. But the Middle East is important too. It looks like Saudi Arabia and maybe Iran. I don't know what that deep orange is. It might be the UAE. And then you've got Europe. You've got, it looks like Finland to me. And then you've got one of the stands. And I assume China's in there, although I don't know. But you got India, Southeast Asia, Australia. There's a lot of money being committed to data centers. I thought I would show you this. This. This is the news today for TELUS. TELUS donates $10,000 to OSNS Child Development Center's Autistic Youth Program. I think it's fantastic. TELUS gave a welcome boost to a program that helps autistic youth succeed in the South Okanagan Smilkameen. So, they're getting through the backlog of news they need to get announced. The donation will help with the development of sustainable tech-enabled learning tools designed for broad and equitable access. So TELUS is moving ever closer through its hopper of news to something that might help us. Okay, micro data centers. I hadn't really heard of it a little bit, but Ward brought it up to me. The micro data center industry is moving quickly, roughly in the high teens to the low 30% compound annual growth rate. That's significantly faster than the broader data center sector. Several recent reports put the global micro data center market at around 9 to 13 billion last year, with projections of 100 billion 10 years from now. That implies a huge compound growth rate. Edge and 5G and IoT explosion are the main drivers: telecom, manufacturing, retail, utilities. Latency, sovereign and distributed IT mandates are pushing governments and enterprises to disaggregate workloads into bite-sized pieces rather than relying on these big data centers. Speed to deploy, modularity makes them attractive. Carriers and tower operators are deploying micro data centers at cell tower sites and central offices to support 5G, edge AI, and mobile video workloads. This is arguably the hottest segment right now, with heavy use of micro mobile and containerized units. Light industrial logistics, warehouses, ports, and last-mile distribution hubs are rolling out MDCs to run real-time logistics, robotics control, and vision-based AI without backhauling to a distant cloud region. Public sector defense, municipalities, and defense agencies are using micro data centers for field deployable, ruggedized compute. Regions leading the charts: North America. It's the largest and fastest growing market. Western Europe and the Asia Pacific region, Japan, South Korea, are close behind. Hyperscalers and large cloud providers are using microcenters as edge pods to extend their footprint into cities, campuses, and industrial sites without building full-scale facilities. Co-location, pushing modular and pre-integrated cabinets and racks that can be deployed in retail stores, branch offices, or remote facilities in days instead of quarters. So this describes the micro data centers and sovereign edge pods, telco edge sites, co-location racks, and small scale data centers, including TELUS's Sovereign A factory and Uniserv's Canadian hosting data center footprint, often deploying GPU-based pods or racks sized for edge, branch, or industrial sites rather than full hyperscale campuses. The wave, the MDC wave, these are the fast deploy modular units that TELUS and partners use to push AI and cloud compute closer to cities, provinces, and industrial corridors, which is exactly where Railtown software wants to run. Middle layers. So that top line is the first layer. The middle layer, Sovereign AI hosting platform, TELUS Sovereign AI Factory plus Uniserv, provide Canadian residents with GPU compute, data center hosting and connectivity as a managed platform, act as the sovereign edge substrata for regulated and national sensitive workloads that don't want cross-border cloud. The role versus micro data center. These platforms may operate both hyperscale style zones and micro edge style. So they can span the spectrum from big campuses to small distributed compute. So number 3, Railtown's AI layer, the software stack, the core products and stack, Railtrack's ADK, AI agent development kit for building autonomous agents that react to events, Conductor, agent orchestration and observability layer for monitoring, debugging, and governing those agents. I think it becomes more important with the micro data center. Rail Engine, real-time event-based ingestion engine for streaming data from IoT databases and apps into agents. Rail State, agent state management and analytics layer for understanding agent behavior over time. Deployment posture, Railtown software is designed to run on top of Canadian resident GPU infrastructure, such as the TELUS Sovereign AI Factory or Uniserv or similar partners. So it can be deployed into micro scale, edge size, or regional nodes rather than a single monolithic cloud region. And the top layer, typical deploy in place scenarios, industrial and logistics, AI agents analyzing conveyor belt cameras, warehouse robots, or rail sensors running on edge racks inside a plant or distribution center, Amazon. Public and sovereign sector, government-sensitive AI or compliance bots that must stay inside Canadian sovereign micro-edge nodes. Telco edge, 5G, real-time AI agents attached to edge pods for network optimization, security, or customer experience use cases. How Railtown hooks into the MDC industry. Instead of building micro data centers themselves, Railtown creates demand for sovereign edge compute by packaging agent-centric software that naturally wants to be close to data center and users. Their partnership with Uniserve and TELUS effectively turns sovereign edge infrastructure into an appliance-ready platform for AI agents, giving enterprises an easy on-ramp into micro edge AI without needing to build their own. I think I skipped this. Okay, Railtown fits into the micro data center sovereign edge system as a software layer enabler for agentic AI workloads rather than as a physical infrastructure builder. It's the brains. Railtown is software layer is the brains sitting on top of sovereign micro and edge class data centers, especially in Canada. Railtown develops AI agentic frameworks and observability tools, Railtrack's ADK, Conductor, Rail Engine, that let developers build, deploy, and manage autonomous AI agents that react to real-time data. Those agents are designed to run on Canadian resident GPU and sovereign compute infrastructure plugged into partners like TELUS's Sovereign AI Factory and Uniserve's data center and hosting stack. How this connects to micro data centers. Railtown's Canadian compute and hosting stack explicitly targets sovereign AI deployments, which need to stay inside Canada, which is exactly where micro and edge-sized facilities are growing fastest. Retail, public sector, remote sites, colo closets. By tying its agent platforms to TELUS's sovereign GPU structure and Uniserve's SME-facing data center and hosting footprint, Railtown effectively demands or pulls through micro and edge-scale compute nodes that can run its agentic workloads close to Canadian customers. This is very powerful. This is the hottest space, and you didn't hear of it before today. By tying its agent platform to TELUS's sovereign GPU infrastructure and Uniserve's SME-facing data center and hosting footprint, Railtown effectively demands or pulls through micro and edge-scale compute nodes that can run its agentic workloads close to Canadian customers. By tying its agent platform to TELUS's sovereign GPU infrastructure, Railtown effectively demands or pulls through micro and edge scale compute nodes that can run its agentic workloads close to Canadian customers. While hyperscalers and colo operators deploy the hardware and micro data centers, racks, pods, Railtown ships the agent-centric software stack. Do you see how the information around Railtown is starting to get more specific? This is what you need to get the story out. Railtown ships the agent-centric software stack that makes those pods economically and operationally meaningful for real-time AI, automation, and observability. In other words, Railtown is riding the micro edge data center wave which I just showed you is the hottest segment right now, as a sovereign AI software aggregator, packaging tools so that customers can drop AI agents into domestic microcell infrastructure instead of sending everything to a single hyperscale region. I read a couple out of sequence, so now I'll go get back in sequence. So Railtown signs its own software as a solution style agreement. Do you see that? Railtown signs its own agreements with the enterprise, but usage is metered through Telus's stack. That I'm not sure is what's going to happen. Telus passes the usage data and takes a small cut for billing, hosting, and support. That's what I think is going to happen. So these are the two possible models. I think it's the second one. Either way, the core is the same. Railtown gets paid as a percentage of the AI compute or AI agent workload, not just a flat subscription. This is better than a pure observability style software as a solution model. This seems like something I've read to you before. But anyway, let's go through it. Most observability tools, Datadog-like vendors, are pure SaaS, not explicit tie to GPU AI workload. Most just monitor whatever is running. Railtown's position on the Telus Sovereign Data Factory changes that. Railtown licenses its agentic framework to sit on top of the sovereign GPU stack. Very powerful. The revenue split is tied to the sovereign AI workload, how many AI agents run, how much GPU time they use. This means Railtown's economics scale with the GPU AI stack, not just with general app infra. So if Telus is driving billions in sovereign AI revenue through its Rimouski data center, and Railtown is getting a chunk of that, the growth potential and strategic stickiness are much higher because Railtown is embedded in the sovereign AI stack. So I think I've read this to you before. The sovereign AI stack, $2 billion a year. If you get 10%, it's $200 million. A licensing deal with a revenue split is the usual structure. I don't think these were wards. I thought they were, but this part may be. Okay, back to the micro system. Telus Sovereign AI, this is Ward, this is from Ward. Telus Sovereign AI Factory nodes, Uniserve hosting rack, and third-party edge pods. Telecom edge sites, industrial sites, warehouses, and regional colos. These are the fast deploy modular units that anchor Canadian resident AI workloads. Platform layer, sovereign hosting and GPU. Provides Canadian resident GPU-based compute, data center hosting, and connectivity. Designed for regulated, there you go, government adjacent and privacy sensitive workloads. This is Railtown. Then they talk about Uniserve. It's a smaller thing. Together, they act as a national sovereign edge substrate that Railtown software rides on top of. This is, to kind of quote Ward, this is getting bigger and better. I'll say I'll take responsibility for that. So the Railtown AI software stack, Railtrax ADK. So software development kits to build AI agents which react to events, sensor data, logs, messages. Conductor. That's agent orchestrator and observability layer, logs, traces, alerts, governance for AI agents. Rail Engine, real-time ingestion engine for streaming data from IoT databases, APIs into agents. Rail State, agent state management and analytics for understanding agent behavior over time. So what's the role? Railtown turns edge-ready GPU nodes into agent-ready AI fabric without forcing customers to build their own agent ops stack. This is huge. Deployment examples in micro edge nodes. Inside a micropod at a manufacturing site, agents run a small GPU rack in the plant. And they monitor machine vision cameras for defects, sensor streams for robots or conveyors. Rail Engine ingests the data, conductor observes, Rail State stores the agent memory. All stays inside the facility or within a Canadian sovereign edge node. Do you remember the comparison with LangChain and even with Google? Railtown is both remote and local. It is vertical. It can stay inside of your local computers instead of going up on the cloud. Inside a telco edge 5G site, a micropod attached to a cell tower edge runs network monitoring agents, AI-driven QoS or security detectors. Railtown Stack lets telcos deploy and manage these agents across many edge pods as a unified control plane. Inside a regional data center for public sector workloads, a regional colo smaller than a hyperscale campus hosts government-facing AI agents for document processing, compliance checks, or citizen service bots. How Railtown hooks into the micro data center industry. They have a demand pull mechanism. Railtown's agent-centric software naturally wants to live close to data and users, so enterprises and partners want more micro edge scale GPU nodes in Canada, not just one big cloud region. Value on top of hardware. Partners like Thales and Uniserve sell sovereign edge infrastructure. Railtown sells the AI agent stack that makes infrastructure economically and operationally compelling. Positioning. Railtown is not a DC builder, but a data center builder, but a sovereign edge AI software aggregator, which ties into the fast-growing micro edge data center wave via Canadian resident GPU partnerships. All right, last thing is this chart. Unfortunately, Ricky's support line was violated. The steeper one, the one that goes sort of here, was violated. But there's another one here. There's another one here. And it may still get violated. Remember, any day stocks can go up or down. I think it stretched out the time that we're going to be in that beak, that pennant, that, you know, this triangle. I think it stretched it out for a few days, if not a week or two, maybe. But anything can happen at any time. But I think, you know, I think this is an excellent time to be buying the stock. And then the support that goes across here horizontally, you're there. So, but anything can happen in the short run. All right. I think, let me just look at the prices. Um, Railtown is now 28 cents, is down 2.5. 28.03 to 28.88, 28.79. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. I wish I had money to buy. But for those of you out there, it's a great chance to load up on, as Ward calls them, cash cows. I'm going to cut out early because I've got 5 phone calls to make. And I don't think I'm going to have much new to tell you. I just emphasized to you the story is getting better at Railtown. Remember these punishing daily downturns that when they happen, they have very short-term goals. There's the 52.5 again on the offer. The regulators don't police. The Congress doesn't care. Your brokerage firm doesn't care because the big institutions are making a profit. They make their split here. But remember, Railtown doesn't need any cash. Railtown isn't going to sign a toxic convertible note. Railtown has plenty of money to get to revenue. Railtown is on the verge. I don't know if it's going to be this week, 2 weeks, or next month, but I think we're getting much closer to the destination, which is when TELUS kind of pumps up the volume. And I think you're going to see at that point buyers come in that aren't limited by our emotions, by my intelligence. They have their own models, their own devotion, their own big checkbooks. I think we're getting closer and closer to that day. So I would take advantage of any of these pullbacks to buy the stock. Don't be an Eeyore. Be a I don't know, be a who was that singer? Don't worry, be happy guy. McRae? I can't remember his name. Be like him. So I'm going to sign off with that. I wish everybody, I hope we stay at peace in the Middle East. I hope that Trump has a way off, even if he can just say, hey, kind of took one step too far. Let's get back to where we were. I hope that happens. But please, the volume today is only 33,000 shares. Take advantage of buying. This gentleman today bought a bunch of stock, and it doesn't even show up in the volume. So it's all you need to know. It's manipulated. Take advantage of the manipulation. With that, I pray for peace in the Middle East. I pray for the children and civilians in Israel. I pray for the children and civilians in Iran. I pray for the children and civilians in the Ukraine, in Russia, in the Middle East, and elsewhere in the world being affected by the infection of war and other human cruelty. I pray for peace for each of you, and look forward to celebrating with Easter with you in a week. Congratulations to Yukon, and I'll leave it at that. Peace.